In lesson 2.1, we are going to learn about congruent figures. Pause the movie. Make sure you have the title Congruent Figures in your math notebook. Let's talk about congruent figures. What are congruent figures? Well, we know that congruent figures are figures that have the same size and shape. So, the figures that you guys can see below, these two triangles, are congruent figures because they have the same size and shape. We can also say that corresponding angles are matching angles and that corresponding sides are matching sides. What I'd like you to do now is pause the movie, write the definition down for congruent figures, which are figures that have the same size and shape. Then I'd like you to write down the words corresponding angles and right next to it matching angles and corresponding sides and write down matching sides. Once you have these three items in your math notes, press play so that you can move on. So now that we know that corresponding angles are matching angles, let's look for the corresponding angles in these figures. So in figure ABCD and WXYZ, I know that angle A and angle W are corresponding angles. Right now, I'd like for you to write in your notes angle A and W. Then I'd like you to write angle B, angle C, then angle D, and find the corresponding angles to B, C, and D. Pause the movie and then press play to check your work. How did you do? Well, the corresponding angle to angle B is the same matching angle in the other figure, which would be angle X. The corresponding angle to angle C would be this one here, which will be angle Y. And then last but not least, angle D corresponds to angle Z. Pause the movie and check your work. Press play when you're ready to continue. Now let's talk about corresponding sides. I write my sides as something like this, AB. I know that that is the side AB. Can you tell me what side corresponds with AB? Hopefully you said WX. Pause the movie and find all of the corresponding sides in these two figures. Then press play to see how you did. Okay, so hopefully you found that BC is corresponding to the side X and Y, and that DC is corresponding to ZY. And last but not least, AD is matching or corresponding to side WZ. Pause the movie and make sure you have these in your notes. You might also want to make sure to draw these pictures in your notes so that you can go back and refer to them later. The last thing you need to know is that two figures are congruent when their corresponding sides and angles are congruent. For example, this tick mark here shows me one tick mark here. So I know that this side is congruent to this side. And because this has two tick marks and this has two, these sides are congruent. And because 3 and 3, that means these are congruent. The same goes for my different angles. This and this are congruent because they have the one line. These two lines show me that these are congruent. Since they have all congruent sides and all congruent angles, I would be able to say that triangle A, B, C is congruent to triangle D, E, and F. Just copy this statement here into your notes and push play to move on. Okay, now it's time to try some on your own. Bring your solutions to class tomorrow. Sample problem. Use congruence to solve this problem. Trapezoids A, B, C, D, J, K, L, M are congruent. What is the length of J, M? Write the answer in your notes. Okay, one more problem. I want you to use these figures below to name all corresponding sides and corresponding angles. You might want to go back in the video and look at how we did the previous example and how we listed them. Bring your answers to class tomorrow. Good luck!